Good weekend, everyone. I hope you're all doing amazing so far this week. With announcements like Detroit hitting the wires and some Manhattan property giveaways, there's all kinds of exciting stuff to go over this week. Welcome to This Week in Review on Upland, where we take a bit of time to discuss what's going on in the Upland metaverse from more of an analytical perspective. Make sure to stick around to see how your favorite city is doing when we break each sector down into our zone-by-zone analysis. If this is your first time landing on our page, welcome to the crew, my friend. I hope to earn your like and subscription today. How healthy is the UPX economy? How is each market sector performing? Which is the best deal and what's the worst? All of the important information that many folks overlook that can be the difference between success and failure. And I'm also going to be covering what I'm doing personally in the Upland metaverse to kind of get a gauge as to what's going on all fronts. If you'd like to join all of us in the Upland metaverse, buying, collecting, flipping virtual real estate NFTs, and all the other fun stuff, click the link in the description. It gets you into Upland with some starting UPX to get going, and if you decide to invest some cash in the game as well, you also get a massive 50% bonus to your first purchase with a bonus cap of 50,000 UPX. To make it even juicier for my SSFTG users who registered with my referral link and bought some UPX with the bonus access, you all have access to our USP list, which you can find on ssftg.com/upland, where we sell properties at 20% or lower than I bought it for, just to get you guys started on a really strong foothold. Before we jump on in as well, I wanted to take a quick little time out to do a Street View submission from J. Joe Kaki. Thank you for bringing this up for all of us to see. This is 2636 Huron Street in Los Angeles. It's the Fast and Furious 1 Dominic's Garage movie location. Really cool. I pulled up a picture from the video to see and just to kind of confirm, because there's no like markings or anything on it. But if we look at the video, a picture from the video in and of itself, there's obviously no sign here, but we've got all of the windows, the style of the building. Even on the side, we've got these three little porthole cutouts and the fence and the bush and the tree and everything. So when we compare all of those details to what we have here, we can very easily see that this is likely the same location. And even if it's not, it looks identical, but this is really, really cool. Thank you for submitting. So let's take a look at what's going on in the Upland metaverse, shall we? So as far as the news and events for the week, first off, there are not a ton of news announcements, but there are some big ones. The first one is going to be the Master Builder Contest. This popped out on February 23rd, and if you do any editing, 3D editing, building editing, if that's your thing, this could be an incredible contest to look for. Effectively, they're looking for user submissions on up to 16 brand new NFT structures in the metaverse for Upland. That is incredible. Again, there's a ton of information here, and there's a lot to cover. I'm not huge on the building side of things or 3D graphical rendering. Not really my jam. So if this is definitely up your alley, look into it, because there were some rewards up to like 100,000 UPX. Really, really cool reward system for you 3D graphic engineers out there. Then on the 25th, we had the Marble Hill Manhattan giveaway, or the Hidden Gems giveaway announcement. Effectively, there were a few properties in Manhattan, which obviously, if you haven't looked at Manhattan, is completely sold out and also ludicrously expensive. We'll get into that in a minute when we go into the zone by zone. But when they launched Manhattan, there were some broken properties and they had to lock them. And now, instead of opening them up for the fastest fingers to mint them, they're going to give them away. Now, in order to earn points into this, you first have to register, and that will earn you the first point. So you can click here to register. You scroll down a little bit further, and you'll find the registration link right there. And when you register and you get everything all set up, that'll bring you to this page, which will give you even more information on the registration and all the point breakdowns and all of that, and a big registration button, of course. But effectively, the first time that we, aside from the registration where you get points, the 28th is going to be the next one, and that starts at 9 o'clock Eastern. I'm sorry, 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, rather. And what you have to do is complete 3 sends to an address with Upland in its address name. By doing 3 paid sends to these addresses, you'll get 4 points. Now, it's really easy to find these. This may seem incredibly complicated. It's really not. Just go to upxland.me and do a search in Los Angeles, because that's where I'm at. And I want to do a search for owned properties. I'm not looking to buy a property. I just want to find one that's owned, and I want to sort by mint price. And then I'll use this search feature right here to search for the address with Upland in the name, and I'll click search. Now, when I do this, this is going to bring me up every property with Upland in the name. But remember, there's a lot of people in here. So we want to try to make this as fair for everyone, or at least I'm going to. So I'm going to sort this by name, what it starts with. And I'll start with the B's, and then I'll jump to the C's after I do ascend there, and then I'll go to the D's. And I would encourage you guys to pick some random 4 spot in the alphabet to go from there as well. That way we can try to keep it fair and spread the sends across everybody instead of one big batch going to one person. On March 1st, brand new month already, at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, we need to mint 1 new property anywhere in Upland, doesn't matter where, and that will get us 10 more points towards this drawing. On the 2nd of March, at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, we complete at least 1 treasure hunt, and that's going to give us 15 points. Now, again, a lot of these say completing additional ones don't get you extra points. 50 points is the maximum that you're going to get from this. Not to say that you can't do more treasure hunts, of course, but it's not going to earn you any more points into the raffle. On March 3rd at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, we have to sell at least 1 property on the secondary market, and that will get us 20 points. Again, this is going to be another big one where on the 3rd, I personally am going to make sure to go on the secondary market more than minting. I'm going to stay away from minting on the 3rd almost entirely and try to focus on only buying from the secondary market to help folks out in this regard. I would encourage you all to do the same. Of course, you don't have to. You can do you, but I want to try to make sure that as many people have as many points as possible, and I'm going to do the same thing here as well. I'll go down the list. I'll find the cheapest ones that I'm interested in buying. I'll try to find them and pick them up and try to spread them as evenly as I can. Now, if we're able to complete all of these things, that will earn us 50 points, which is a total of 7 entries into the raffle, which is the maximum. You can't earn more than that, so just keep that in mind. Of course, it's always a good idea to double-check the event terms and conditions so you know what's going on, but one important piece out of there is that the winner of the prizes will be drawn on Friday, March 4th on probably, I would assume, at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard, just like all of the others. And then, of course, on February 25, it's hard to miss this one. Detroit launches. Detroit and Beyond announcement came out. This is going to be a big one. First off, there is a huge amount of information here. A lot. And if you're a big analytical, techie kind of nerd like me, you're going to have an absolute heyday in this. But just to break down the easy stuff without going too crazy, because I'm going to be doing a video on Detroit later in the week with all of the information there. So we'll just keep it light and concise in this one, but there's a huge amount of info here. First off, Detroit, right? Detroit is going to be launching on March 3rd at 8 o'clock Eastern. 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I keep getting those messed up. At 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, Fox Creek and Greenfield are going to launch first. Now, I'm super excited about Detroit. It's something that I talked about in the last week review, and, you know, how it's going to basically be an easy segue, first off, into vehicles. But second of all, something that is incredibly useful for the Upland economy. Having a way for new people to come in and mint properties at, 900 or 1,000 UPIX instead of having to mint something at 6,000 UPIX where they can't even afford it to start out. This is huge, right? This is something that Upland desperately needs to bring in new people. We have a very well-established economy. In fact, I would argue that it's one of the best metaverse economies out there. And with that in mind, having something like this where new players have the ability to come in and mint cheaper properties, that lowers the floor, the bar for entry for them to come in, but also has the possibility of still allowing the upper end of things to stay there and flourish. After the Fox Creek and Greenfield launch, there'll be a little bit of a pause, of course, kind of like a stress test like all the others, and then the rest of it will be launched. And it will be launched in vanilla mode, something important to take note of. Collection information will be released 1 week after, and that's likely going to come out on March 10 at 9 o'clock Eastern, just like they did with LA. Detroit is going to be a Tier 3 city, which means that it's going to have a 70% FSA allocation. If we're looking at a 70% FSA allocation, that's a pretty big deal. Again, that's the bar for entry on new people coming in, and that's awesome. There is no airport. Although there will be a train, and based on some of the networking in real life, we also have, I would guess, a possibility of the Hyperloop coming to Detroit as well. It is scheduled for the real life Hyperloop to move into Detroit. it wouldn't be a surprise at all to see it implemented here as well. That would offer a really nice, fast way to travel to Detroit as well. There will be 19 collections, and of course, because it is a Tier 3 city, the treasure hunt tier will be Tier 3 as well. If you're interested in the train terminals, you will have the ability to register for the train terminal sale on Monday the 28th at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Train terminals, there's going to be 10 of them, and they're going to be selling for $255 a piece. Those will launch, and the registration will close on March 1st at 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, where you'll be able to buy those if you're lucky enough to get in line for them. Jumping back over to the Upland market analytics and kind of taking a look at what's going on so far over the past week. The 30-day transactional volume in UPX last week was 4.504 billion. This week, it's 4.447 billion, which gives us a net change between the two of about a negative 1.265%. That's not really a huge surprise, and in fact, if anything, I would expect this volume to probably start going up a little bit as people try to get more liquid for the Detroit launch. That wouldn't be a surprise at all. We are seeing the trading volume dry off after the Los Angeles launch, and again, a lot of those analytics of the launches and all of that you can find on the Detroit page. There's a huge amount of analytics there, but lots of really good information there. We're seeing the market again kind of stabilizing. It's a little bit lower on the end here, sitting at just about 100. And with the announcement of Detroit, I suppose that's not much of a surprise, but the overall trajectory is still aiming to the upside and looking strong. And now we get to jump over to the zone-by-zone analysis, always fun. First off is Bakersfield. Bakersfield's previous floor was 10,000 UPX. The current floor is 9,249, which means that we have a drop of 7.51%. The USD floor was $7.89, and the current USD floor is $7.49, which is a drop of 5.07% there as well. There are some pretty heavy movers here, but the collection information is down on the bottom. Notable movers, the big ones that we really want to pay attention to. Seven Oaks at Grand Island is up 53.57%. Monster of a ripper. The lowest UPX markup is 324%. I had a request to add markup data on there, so there you go. We've also got a couple other ones that are notable, like West Bakersfield, which is down 16.66%. Lowest markup's 171%. Really, really interesting little pullback here in Bakersfield. But also, man, what a ripper on the Seven Oaks. Holy cow. Bronx has a little bit of a pullback here as well, and the USD side is not doing very well, but the collections, totally different scenario here. So the Bronx previous UPX floor is 12,450. The current is 11,999. That's down only 3.62%. Not a big deal there. The USD floor is down from 1111 to 9, though, which is down 18.99%. Definite smackdown there on the USD floor. But if we look at the collection data, notice the negatives, or the distinct lack thereof. We've got two negatives in Belmont and Pelham, which are 7 and 3%. We've got another 3% in overall Bronx as a whole, of course. But everything else is up, like a lot. We've got the Throg's Neck, which is up 12%. We've got the exclusive collection, City Island, which is up 17.5%. 25% in the Riverdale Rare collection. I mean, this thing is screaming to the upside. We do still have some low markups, right? Even in exclusive collections like Mott Haven, there are markups like 154%, which is comparable to the floor. Very interesting there. Brooklyn's next up on the list, and also pulling back a little bit. The UPX floor taking the ding this time. The previous UPX floor is $13,399. The current floor is $12,000. That's down 10.44%. And then inside of the USD floor, that's from $10.11 down to $10. That's a really small change, down 1.09%. Not a big deal there. But as far as the collections are concerned, we've got some pretty healthy back and forth, but predominantly on the downside. Nice little pullback area in the Bronx if people are looking to fill up their collection coffers, although the markups are still relatively heavy. And then, of course, there's good old Chicago. We've got Chicago, which has 8,289 on the UPX floor, down this week to 8,249. Basically nothing, down 0.48%. The USD floor is from 650 down to 625. That's 3.85% down there. One of the big things that we're seeing more than anything else in the Chicago area, aside from some good, healthy back and forth, are, once again, the collection properties getting a lot of flippin' floppin'. We've got State Street, which is up 16%, but we've got Ukrainian Village, which is down 15%. We've got a lot of flipping going on like that, and it seems like people are just trying to position in the Chicago area with those collections while they're on the cheap, and they're kind of jumping around a bit. Cleveland on a bit more of a pullback here as well, with a previous UPX floor at $99.99, current floor at $9,500. That's down 4.99%. The previous USD floor was at $8, now it's at $7. The USD change then is down 12.5%. In Cleveland, specifically in the collections, there are some that are very, very interesting, especially noting that Cleveland could possibly have the Hyperloop going to Detroit. A lot of people are going to be utilizing Cleveland to get to Detroit because Detroit doesn't have an airport. So it's going to be a little bit more of an interesting hub here in Cleveland over the next couple days. But we are seeing on the collection side of things that they're taking a little bit of a hit. Old Brooklyn's down 10%. We've got Tremont, which is down 7.5%. But then equally, in the same breath, we also have things like Lorraine Avenue, which are up 13%. It does seem like Cleveland has more down than up for the most part. But that seems like a lot of people are probably just positioning for Detroit and getting ready for it, considering that Cleveland could be a direct connection. Over in Fresno next, we actually have one that's doing okay. We've got a gainer, at least. Previous UPX floor is 11,000. The current UPX floor is 9,600. That's down 12.73%. But on the USD side of things, it went from 750 to 799. That's up 6.53%. Here again, right, I mean, this is the same thing that happened with Los Angeles. We're seeing people trying to get liquid for Detroit. But, you know, looking at the collection information here, very typical for California in general, the average markup tends to be about 400+%. But there are some that are out there of relative interest on that lower portion. As an example, the North Growth area is down 17%, and that's only about a 700% markup. We also have things like standard collections with Woodward Park. That's down 8%, and that's at $788. Granted, this could get significantly better. Nobody likes paying an 800% markup. But given where it's come from and the fact that San Francisco generally has some pretty strong floor pricing, this could be a nice little dip opportunity. Kansas City is up next at $99.90 on the UPX floor last week. This week it's at $89.99, down 9.92%. We also have the previous USD floor at $7.50. The current floor is $7.99. That's up 6.53%. Some pretty good back and forth movement there. However, when we look at the collection data on Kansas, things go absolutely crazy. I mean, we've got monster moves. First off, the floor has an 89% markup, which means that at the moment in Kansas, you're able to buy on the secondary market for cheaper than just going there and minting it, which is incredible. Those typically don't stay around for very long in established cities. We see that a lot in Los Angeles, of course, but other things that stand out, like, I mean, look at Blue Hills. Blue Hills last week was $25,499. This week it's $35,000. It's up 37%. And it's still a 290% markup. It's not terrible. Some of the other ones, like here, I mean, Troost Ave, exclusive, that's $110,000 down to $80,000. That's down 27%. We've got some serious movers. Even Plaza Westport's down 35%. Rare collections like Southwest Boulevard, down 25%. People are trying to get liquid UPX ahead of Detroit. Then we've got Los Angeles, which takes up so much space on the screen that I can't fit everything. We'll just have to kind of shrink things down a little bit. But Los Angeles, previous floor is $8,400. The current floor is $7,500. That's down 10.71%. However, the previous USD floor is at $650. The current floor is $680. That's up 4.62%. This is where things go absolutely wild. Los Angeles is obviously still a developing marketplace. We've had collections, we've got, I mean, there's been some time now for things to sort of calm down. But as soon as the market catches a little bit of a breath, boom, there's Detroit. Like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're going again. So if we look at the overall movement that's going on, the collection on the lower side is seeing a lot of gain. We see this over and over. They keep flipping. Last week, it was the upper. Before that, it was the lower. Probably this week, it's going to be the upper again, right? That's kind of how this goes. The lower portion on the standard and, well, really just the standard collections are showing some pretty good growth. They also have very low markups for you out-of-staters. If we look at the limited collection, though, the limited collection is taking a hit, which would suggest that people are trying to get liquid for Detroit, especially selling limited collections under mint, which is absolutely insane, down 10%, 23%, lots of big pullbacks. When we go a little bit further into the exclusive collections, rares and ultra rares, those aren't moving as much, up or down 8%, nothing crazy, until we get down to here to Wilshire Boulevard, which was at 228 up to 300. That's up 31.5%. So we've got some pretty big movers. Oh, yeah, and of course, we can't forget about the doubling up over there in the Gregarious Angelino. That was at 1.8 million. Now it's at 3.45. Getting real expensive over there. And speaking of incredibly expensive, over to Manhattan. What a good segue. Manhattan has been coming under pressure a lot with the launch of Detroit. They even talked specifically about the Manhattan pricing issues. There's a lot of stuff going on. We do have some Manhattan properties that are going to be getting raffled off, which is really cool. But when we look at the floor pricing, the Manhattan last week was at $149.99. Now it's down to $129.99. Too many nines. That's down 13.33%. The previous USD floor is at 140. The current floor is at 134. That's down 4.29%. One of the big things that's been going on in the Manhattan area and across all of Upland really is a huge amount of negative swaps, meaning that people are going around and trying to swap other people for half value properties for Manhattan so that they can offload Manhattans to increase their net value. It's a game mechanic. I mean, hey, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? They're utilizing in-game mechanics, so be it. But the thing that we have to keep in mind is understand the value of your properties before you just go flopping them off to somebody that you don't know and you lose a huge amount of value on these. Manhattan and why it's getting clubbed so hard, this is why, right? We're getting a ton of this kind of activity going on. And, well, it's part of the game, but you've got to be careful. Over in Nashville, which is doing very, very well. Nashville's previous floor is at $9,000. The current floor is $10,495. That's up 16.6%. The previous USD floor is at $7.50. The current floor is at $7.90. That means that that's a change of 5.33%. One of the reasons why we could be expecting to see the Nashville floor continuing to rise is because there's still properties to mint. They talked about that in the Detroit one as well, but there are still plenty of properties to mint in Nashville, and as long as that's the case, people are going to continue minting them instead of buying them on secondary until they run out, and then the floor price will naturally start increasing. We are also seeing that on the collections. The collections on the negative side are negligible. They're barely pulling back. But just like in Los Angeles, we're seeing a lot of the lower collections or the ones that still have mintable properties going up pretty aggressively, right? So we still know that Nashville is a developing area, and that's likely not going to change for a while. In New Orleans, the previous UPX floor was $10,999. The current UPX floor is $10,750. The previous USD floor was $848. The current floor is $798. That's a negative on both fronts. The UPX is down 2.23%, and the USD side is down 5.9%. Here in New Orleans, I mean, again, we're kind of seeing this flippy-floppy thing that Los Angeles is doing, where the lower side of collections is getting hit and the upper band of collections is getting lifted. This will probably flip-flop back and forth, but it seems like a lot of players are realizing that it's easier to offload the lower collections because they're cheaper, and that is likely another sign that people are getting liquid for Detroit. Oakland is next up on the list. The previous UPX floor is $11,500. The current is $11,800. That's up 2.61%. The USD side of things, though, previous floor is at $9, now at $9.90. That's up 10%. Looking across the collections, we've got some pretty wild movers going on here with some markups as low as 104%. But we've also got some big rippers. The rare collection downtown was at $245, now up to almost $400,000, 63.26% gaining on that side. Lots of 20% dips, some massive rips. We've got some really big fluctuations going on here in Oakland. A quick little jump over to Rutherford. We can see the previous UPX floor is $51,118. The current floor is $47,000. That's down 8%. The previous floor on the USD side of things is at $48.84. The current floor is $38.99. That's down 20%. Here again, looking at some of the transactional volumes taking place in Rutherford, there's a lot of that flipping stuff going on here as well, so just be careful. As far as the collections are concerned, almost no movement in Feronia, and the other ones have gone absolutely ballistic. Park Ave and Carmita Ave are up both over 30%, Carmita 47%. Huge gains on the collection side. Over in San Francisco, the previous floor is at $29,900, the current floor $27,900. That's down 6.69%. The previous USD floor $23.99, the current floor $22.80. That's down 4.96% there too. Looking at the collection data, here again, we're seeing a very common thing across the board whenever we have a big launch of a new city or anything like that. I know I'm talking about it like crazy, but we have the limited and standard collections get sold first. That's just how it works. They're really easy to offload. They tend to be a little bit cheaper. People buy those faster. It's easier for someone to part with 28,000 UPIX than it is for them to part with 700,000 UPIX, right? Not to say that there can't be some incredible deals. This one's down 35%. But I don't know about many people who are sitting on 2.5 million UPIX just sitting there waiting for no particular reason. And that's kind of the issue with these. So these are usually a lot easier to offload. If people are looking to offload for some cash, this is where it comes out of, because they take longer to flip, but they're worth a heck of a lot more. Santa Clara is giving us a little bit of a stable market. For once, it's kind of nice. Santa Clara is showing the previous UPIX floor $22,500, the current floor $22,390. That's down 0.49%. Woohoo! Not a whole lot going on there. On the USD floor, 18.99. The current USD floor, 19.49. That's up 2.63%. Overall, Santa Clara is looking pretty healthy. The markups are still fairly low when compared to some of the other areas, but Santa Clara is also on the more expensive side. Those markups are low, but the base prices are still in the 20,000s. It's fitting a little bit more typical California, I think, but that is going to be a zone of interest where if we can get any kind of pullback, buyers do tend to be interested, especially noting the North 101 collection up 22.2%. It seems like a lot of people are paying attention. And then finally, we've got Staten Island, which is also getting slapped across the face a little bit here. Previous UPIX floor, $13,950. Current floor, $12,000. That's down almost 14% there. Previous USD floor is at $11. The current floor is at $9.99, down 9.18%. On the collection side of things, though, we can see what's happening, right? This is what we were just talking about. When people want cash, they cash out of the exclusives, the rares, the ultra rares. What are we seeing in these collections? They're down, up to almost 50%. What are we seeing in the lower collection side? Buyers are picking them up. We have some as high as 32.5%, 19%, big gains on the lower portions. So we've got this ebb and flow back and forth in Staten Island, and it seems like people are cashing out for, well, big cash. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week in review on the Upland metaverse. I hope you and yours are doing well this weekend and your stacks are as thick as ever. Like I said, I'm going to be putting together a predictions and analysis video for the upcoming Detroit launch later this week, which should be an absolute huge amount of fun. I live in Michigan, and we used to go to Detroit pretty frequently for, school trips and stuff like that. So it should be kind of interesting. We'll see. Have an amazing rest of your weekend. Get ready for that huge week ahead of us. We've got a lot of stuff. Make sure to get your registrations, get everything you need to do done, and then we can rock and roll into Monday. So thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.